with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media sites. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to get at us there. A lot of ways people can also comment throughout the show. Of course, Flavio Jimenez dropping that like over on the Facebook page. We do appreciate that, as well as a lot of stuff we'll be getting into here today. Just a few of the major topics here. Going to be talking with UTEP professor Todd Curry today. More on delving further into is more on the actual decision coming out on the Isleta del Sur Pueblo versus the state of Texas, that decades-long case, what that could actually mean, some examples of what has happened in other parts of the country, plus some other parts that you may not even considered yet of that decision. Really just kind of a roadmap, what that might mean, but delving further into it, as well as getting into here what exactly going on with the county, University Medical Center, the El Paso County Hospital District, and the several $100 million worth of certificates of obligations that are being requested. The actual outcome of that here today, as well as, rescue and smuggling season going on, even in fuller force along the Rio Grande, as well as training going on. So, yeah, a lot of expectations going with further border issues. Flavio Jimenez saying, free Isleta. I mean, it might not be, it's not impossible. Nothing's impossible, but we'll give you some, no pun intended, odds of what might happen with gambling in the area, as we also have Calvin Williams wishing us good afternoon. Good afternoon to you as well. So let's get right into it with what is going on, of course, with the county. We talked a little bit about it yesterday. You may have noticed that as we have most Wednesdays, except for this past one, did not have Estefania Seifert, investigative reporter with our news partners over there at KFOX 14, joining us because she was put on that special assignment looking into what all was going on with the El Paso Hospital District proposal, that $345 million worth of certificates of obligations that do not require voter approval, but rather a majority vote from the Commissioner's Court. So for them to be issued, public must be notified before commissioners approve the money, and that was the meeting that happened today. Of course, over with our news partners there at KFOX 14, you can find there the link to the actual full video where it was put on. I mean, it's a decently long one, so I'm not going to blame you if you're not going to sit through it overall. So, in fact, actually going on still right now. God bless these things. But going on for the last, ever so slight 7 hours. So, you know what? I'm just going to give you that bit of grace there and not blame you for not watching that whole amount. Jeez. This is why we have news partners, among other things. But among other important parts of it, it has been actually postponed for now. County commissioners saying that they are not going to be voting on that at this moment, instead of postponing action on that for June 27th. Rescheduling, I guess, is the way they're doing it. John Browsden mentioning another political issue going in the area that's showing that polls are tightening. His comment here, oh God, if Beto becomes Governor Beto, what state can I move to? Governor Beto, I am sure that would be an interesting situation, but that is another aspect percolating through there. It technically came up yesterday, but I will freely admit that went straight past us. So we'll get into that as well. But just to put a pin in this whole story, coming out of just all of this with the county hospital district, again, UMC, El Paso Children's, they are promising an extensive, is the quote being used here, extensive public outreach efforts along with this. Because, doing so, again, the public would have to be notified, but again, the extensive public outreach is the quote directly from there, and including from a meeting that our news partners over at KFOX 14 got the ability to do so. So, again, the notice of intent would be the next thing to come out of Commissioner's Court if they indeed do support it here in some commentary on places to move coming out there. I'm going to stick it out here, I can tell you, regardless of how the election is going to go. But so for that $345 million in certificates of obligation, there are some specific priorities being put forth by the hospital district and UMC leadership, including a expansion of bed capacity, a neighborhood health center in Central El Paso, a cancer center, among other needs. Now, of course, some of the commissioners have been reached out to. One of the ones responding to our news partners saying that Commissioner Stout responded, seeing that number, to be quite honest, gives me some heartburn when it comes to not going to voters. But, some of the reasoning behind that has to do with trying to save the taxpayers millions of dollars. The longer we wait, the highest our interest rate could be. Now, they note there that if the certificates of obligation are voted on and approved, homeowners could see an increase of $2.28 a month or $27.40 annual in property taxes for a home valued at $100,000. So for the actual median price, let's call it closer to about $200,000 here in the city of El Paso. Even UNC leadership assuming that it'll be closer to probably about $60 a year added on to this, which, sure, in the micro view may not seem like a whole lot, but of course, when you're talking about all the taxing indices and your ultimate total tax bill, as I am looking much closer at becoming one of the direct payers of that. But of course, even if you're not a direct property owner and paying the property taxes yourself, if you're living here and renting anywhere, I got news for you, you're paying it too. Because you don't think that that's a cost being associated with your occupancy of that particular location. Yeah, nah. So that meeting today, again, the sum total of that, which we talked a little bit about yesterday, the proposal is on hold for now, even though once it does actually happen, it would be a 45-day minimum notice to the public and to get public input before they actually vote on the certificates of obligation. So on hold for now. The notice of intent is not going to be happening just yet. June 27th is the one if you want to mark your calendars for to, I don't know, maybe pay attention to a commissioner's court meeting. I know that sounds like a tall order. You can tune into it online, so if you're already doing that for this show, you're ahead of the curve there. But again, don't expect you to sit through the 7 hours. We'll, of course, have more updates for you as we get closer to or any action even in between then and now. Calvin Williams saying, stop raising the taxes and work on raising the population, or at the very least, raising the investment in the area. I did also promise that we get into a little bit of what Congresswoman Veronica Escobar had to say in her news conference today. The audio not working out there in this case, but some of the highlights mentioning that there was going to be some investment into county business retention and expansion along the Mission Trail, along with some other federal efforts as specifically the Mission Trail business retention and expansion as part of appropriation community funded projects. So that just starting to come out. We'll see what more comes on that because actually getting more injected into the county and into areas. And she did also, of course, note the Isleta del Sur Pueblo decision there and, well, saying that it was a historic position, as also reported to our news partners there. So we'll see what actually comes out of that. So actually on that point, we will get into that. What exactly could be seen? What are some of the similar circumstances that happened around the country, and what impact might this have on reasonable laws, rates, and even regionally? Because, as has also been noted, we're not too far removed here in the far west part of Texas from other entities, other tribal entities of other states who have had, well, extensive operations, what this kind of decision might mean for them. So that's going to take us through the first break of the hour here right now. You are, of course, tuned into Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. If you're wanting to chime in, social media is one of the better ways to do so in this first part of the program. Flaco Jimenez, Calvin Williams, RJ, John Brazelton, and more tuning in, chiming in, also dropping those likes, Calvin Williams and Flaco Jimenez. We do appreciate it. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso coming up after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, delving further into what exactly the Isleta del Sur Pueblo versus Texas case might mean here locally. No, you're probably not going to be playing blackjack next week, but well, we'll get to the possibilities, so to speak, right after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. You are, of course, still having plenty of time in order to, as long as you hurry, get those presents ready for Father's Day. And I might make a very so slight of a recommendation to you, that of going to enhanced flavors to really help spice up your life. Because when I think of family, I think of gatherings, time spent in each other's company, and of course, food. Because I don't know if a hungry family is the best one you want to spend time with. And, well, real simple way to fix that is by coming together around the dinner table or grill or wherever you prefer. And some ingredients that you can infuse into all of those situations are, of course, the great selection of extra virgin olive oils, balsamic vinegars, and flavored olive oils from Enhanced Flavors, sourced from the best places in the world for it: Italy, Greece, Spain, Tunisia, among others. But your local source, they've got it in stock for you and you can get it right to your door. So you don't even have to leave town to get those international flavors. So you can often find them out in the community. But if you're real hard pressed and wondering where you can get at them, of course, before the big day in question, be sure to follow them over on enhancedflavors.com to find the full selection and even place your order. Particularly if you're ordering online, you can get a discount by entering at checkout the code EF Radio. That's EF Radio, as in Enhanced Flavors Radio, and get 15% off your next order. So again, find them online, enhancedflavors.com. That's enhanced with a D, flavors.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Your latest El Paso traffic: Memorial Highway southbound at Montana, a disabled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. Dyer, north of Fred Wilson at Broadus, an injury accident. Another crash with injuries at Kenworthy and Cohen, and a crash south of Coronado Country Club at Thunderbird Drive at Broadmoor. Take Silver Springs Drive instead. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
How does a kid go from poverty to end up being a world-renowned brain surgeon and secretary of HUD? We're going to get into that with Dr. Ben Carson. We're going to talk about his life, the current state of affairs in the country as well. Be sure to check out The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Hey, it's Mario Courtney Lopez, and we know life is better together.
Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
We are all getting together more, and Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath with just 2 rinses a day keeps us from worrying about bad breath in those up-close moments.
Go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find Smart Mouth at your favorite store to give you confidence as we get closer to each other.
Remember to make life's moments better together with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic. But if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer: regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is a leading cancer killer, but it can be prevented with regular screening starting at 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today. Visit cdc.gov/screening4life for more information.
Find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, beat the largest timeshare company in federal court and has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-738-9900. That's 800-738-9900.
Stay tuned and stay informed with News Radio 690, KTSM, an iHeart radio station.
Text and whatever. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Joining me now, we have UTEP Associate Professor of Political Science, Todd Curry. Thank you very much for joining us today.
It's good to be here.
So we have been talking a little bit about some of the early things being seen, at least in the initial day response, from the decision that was made in Isleta del Sur Pueblo versus Texas. that announcement coming out about the decision in that case, 5-4 with Neil Gorsuch, Justice, writing for the majority there, that was definitely going to be having some impacts here in the local area, and fairly specifically for the Tigua tribe, again, Isleta del Sur Pueblo, as styled in the case. And this is something that you have done, studied it in broadly anyway, in terms of essentially U.S. and Native tribe relations, right?
Yeah, I've examined pretty extensively the relationships between federally recognized tribes, their own states, and also the federal government. And really what's going on here with the Isleta del Sur Pueblo and the state of Texas is something that has happened in lots of states.
Though this, of course, as most cases, have their own peculiarities, and in particular, a different set of federal laws at play here that allowed for the relationship essentially as it was for decades, literally. I mean, the law itself we're talking about that somewhat legally anyway segregated Texas tribes from most of the regulations that other states were having to do when it came to their tribes, and very specifically the act of gaming, gambling, casinos, etc. It was literally different in Texas.
Yeah, the interesting thing is when Congress passed what was known as the Restoration Act, which established the federal recognition and the relationship between the Isleta del Sur Pueblo and the U.S., is they took the two tribes that were federally recognized in the state of Texas at that time and made it so that the state could play a role in determining gaming. But they did it in a way that was consistent with the Supreme Court's precedent at the time, which had been handed down months earlier.
Yeah, again, an interesting situation of not even just the court's own precedent being involved in this decision, that one that has come out again as of this week, but literally previous precedent going into a law that now new precedent has been established on. That may be getting too complicated here. In any case, the important part of this is that this is now going to potentially open some avenues. But one other thing I wanted to make sure we get to here, this of course wasn't even the only case coming out this week that deals with, well, Native American tribal law as it then works with otherwise state and particularly federal laws.
Yeah, so the Nespe case that was handed down earlier this week as well dealt with the issue of double jeopardy and the relationship between tribal courts and federal court systems. And this is another case where Justice Gorsuch played a role, although in the Nespe case, he wrote the very powerful dissent.
And that's one of the more interesting things here, because as we did talk about this yesterday with the previous guest, there isn't necessarily out of the Isleta del Sur Pueblo versus Texas case necessarily a lot of precedent that's going to affect other tribes, other localities across the country, really outside of Texas, because again, now writ very large and being very broad with the description here, we are seeing now what the law in place when it comes to gaming in tribes in Texas, now more in line with the rest of federal law. But the entire situation that, again, might be being looked at more closely by other tribal entities across the country is that of what is their relationship with the court right now? Is it even that common to have this many cases decided within a week, much less a term, related to Native American law?
Yeah, so generally, most cases that deal with Native American law tend to be handed down at the end of the term. We've seen this really for the past 10, 20 years, that these are the last cases. There were a larger number of them this year, and I think part of the reason for that is more of these cases were getting appealed because they knew that there was someone who was sitting on the court that was an actual issue area expert, and that being Justice Gorsuch. So we're seeing more cases than we have previously, but I think that's largely the tribes and the individuals participating knowing that they have a sympathetic ear on the court finally.
Assumed to be anyway, but of course, one of the more interesting questions that has come out of, and the reason we brought up that other case, that Nespe versus United States, the one dealing with essentially double jeopardy in federal versus tribal courts, and then of course the one directly affecting the locality here, Isleta del Sur Pueblo versus Texas, is the differences in votes in another justice, that of Amy Coney Barrett.
Yeah, Amy Coney Barrett is interesting because in the Isleta del Sur case, she sided with Neil Gorsuch and the three liberals who currently sit on the court. But she writes the opinion in the Nespe case where Gorsuch is dissenting. Her development on the court is obviously very new. She has been on the court for a very limited amount of time, and I think we'd still be in the period of what we call sort of her honeymoon period. And this is an area, tribal relations, that she did not have a lot of experience with before joining the U.S. Supreme Court. So I think in many instances, when you are, like she is, new and relatively untrained in the area, you really lean upon your fellow justices who have more experience. And I think that might explain why she was persuaded in the Ysleta del Sur case by Justice Gorsuch, but in an area that has much more established precedent, that being sort of double jeopardy and this dual jurisdiction mechanism that goes on, she felt comfortable enough to take the lead on it.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Dr. Todd Curry, UTEP Associate Professor of Political Science. Want to find out anything more about him, just look for him over on the UTEP website, including some of his other works and publications related to this area, among other things. So again, that relationship between, some of the justices and this particular area of law. So precedent, again, not really being a part of the conversation, but when it comes to, well, like you said, that there had maybe more appeals being done. And out of some of these initial results, again, when it relates to areas relating to tribal law, what might be, as if there are any further ones coming out, of course, that could change. But as it stands at this moment with this week and these decisions being released, does this make it seem like that might be a trend that continues about more appeals, more appealing to the court? Or what do you think would be the takeaway for, tribal governments?
I think tribal governments really, since Justice Gorsuch has joined the bench, the Dinesky case is the only case I can think of them losing. And so we're talking about over the span of really about almost 4 years, the tribes had not lost a single case. And I think that they're still looking forward and thinking that the court is much more welcoming to their arguments. And they are appealing a lot more cases, not cases which often put them against the United States government, but cases in which it is the tribal entity versus a state. We're seeing a lot of appeals coming down the pipeline in that vein because I think they know that they have a receptive audience on the U.S. Supreme Court.
Okay. So just some of the opinions here may be affecting it. Do you expect that there might be more cases coming up in these, maybe not exactly these kind of veins, but again, relating to the broader area of tribal law?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of areas where, especially even in Indian gaming, where tribes are supposed to negotiate in a good faith effort with the state to let Indian gaming go forward. And many states aren't operating in good faith, and there have been a lot of challenges to those laws, to those negotiations. And I think now, looking at the court, we probably have a court that is receptive of shifting the balance of power in that relationship much more to the tribes than to the state.
So on that note, then, of course, within the larger region we're in here, we do have both, of course, the Texas side of things, in which things may continue to evolve relating to this situation. But New Mexico is probably one of the better examples, both regionally and that I can even think of in general, where there is a very well-established, well-developed relationship between, localities, individual tribes, and the state government, and the development of gaming and other related activities, entertainment in general, larger branched into. Are there any more regional issues that you think might come up, particularly along those bounds, or is this pretty well settled from your reading in our area?
I mean, at this point, the law in terms of Indian gaming is settled until the court changes the relationship between the state and the tribes. And the only way that they could do that is through interpretations of the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act. Here in Texas, that's really not an issue. In New Mexico, it would have some significant change because here in Texas, all Class 3 gaming is banned. There is no Class 3 gaming allowed in the state of Texas. When Class 3 gaming is any banked card game, so blackjack, etc., and any other sort of games of chance like slot machines. But in New Mexico, Class 3 gaming is allowed with the tribal compact. So if there was any sort of change in the relationship, it would primarily affect the jurisdiction, at least close to us in New Mexico, and not have nearly as much of an effect in Texas, because Texas would still be allowed to prohibit all sorts of Class 3 gaming.
All right, again, guest right now is Todd Curry, UTEP Associate Professor of Political Science. We got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll delve a little bit further into it, what negotiations could look like, and again, any immediate and near-term outcomes from the Supreme Court decision announced this week. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 News Update. Nearly 3 months after he allegedly shot and killed another man in Anthony, New Mexico, an accused killer is now behind bars. Anthony, Texas police say they arrested Anthony Salas yesterday. He's being held in the El Paso County Jail awaiting extradition back to New Mexico, where he there faces a murder charge. Investigators say he shot and killed Jose Hernandez during a domestic dispute back in March. And an El Paso man faces some jail time after authorities say he was caught impersonating a TABC agent. Investigators say 27-year-old Christopher Contreras visited a local bar last month, claiming he worked for the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. He's charged with impersonating a public servant, which is punishable by up to 10 years in prison, along with a $10,000 fine. I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Your latest El Paso traffic, Memorial Highway southbound at Montana, a disabled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. Dyer, north of Fred Wilson at Broadus, an injury accident. Another crash with injuries at Kenworthy and Cohen, and a crash south of Coronado Country Club at Thunderbird Drive at Broadmoor takes Silver Springs Drive instead. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
After a stretch of unseasonably hot and dry weather, temperatures will start to cool and rain prospects will increase. Expect partly cloudy skies tonight with a 30% chance for isolated to widely scattered showers and storms. Overnight lows will also settle into the middle 70s. Coming up tonight, we'll talk about more seasonal daytime highs headed our way, plus a look at your weekend forecast. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by Discover. If you're a valued customer, you deserve a simple gesture of appreciation from your credit card company. And that's why Discover matches all of the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year. Discover. Exceptionally common sense. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations apply.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with little tips for a healthier planet. Globally, about 1,000 plants we depend on for food and products need to be pollinated by animals, including coffee, melons, chocolate, almonds, and even tequila. Help stabilize the declining honeybee population by planting native plants that they rely on for food, habitat, and nesting. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/earth.
When it comes to shopping for windows and doors, we've done the research for you and only carry the best. Choose Milgard at the Window Depot. The pros at the Window Depot are here to help with an array of choices from Milgard. Everything from in-stock windows and doors to custom orders. Milgard offers vinyl, fiberglass, and aluminum products built to your specifications. Visit thewindowdepot.com to find a location near you. That's thewindowdepot.com. Our stores are open Monday through Saturday, but we also offer online ordering and no-contact delivery. The Window Depot, Arizona's largest supplier of Milgard windows.
Don't let breakfast be boring when it could be better. Wendy's Breakfast Baconator will have you feeling sunny side up all day long. Wake up to fresh cracked eggs, savory sausage, and oven-baked bacon, of course. Order it and start looking forward to tomorrow morning at participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours only. This report is sponsored by Wendy's Breakfast Baconator.
City streets or small towns, everyone deserves a clean, green community. We are Keep America Beautiful, the nonprofit working to end littering, improve recycling, and beautify communities. Let's do beautiful things. Visit KAB.org.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Welcome back here to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on our social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk on those platforms here. Joined here again by Ben Kappelman, partner with Dorsey and Whitney. Thank you very much for sticking around with us.
My pleasure.
So, one correction we need to make real quick. There are actually 3 federally recognized tribes here in Texas. Again, a small number, but we would be remiss to not mention that there is that third.
That's right, the Kickapoo Traditional Tribe.
Okay, so mentioned it, not part of this case, obviously, or the law, rather, involving it. But then that, of course, brings up the question about the precedent that comes here. But just in general, the experience you all have, you're not a part of this current Supreme Court case, but deal with similar issues around the country, right?
That's right. We're not involved in this case, but our firm.
Sorry about that for a second there, folks. That is actually the previous interview that we, of course, had on for y'all yesterday. Slight mix-up in our system there. Live radio happens occasionally here, so we're going to get that fixed for you with the actual interview for today here in just a second. But in any case, so we'll check in with some of our people chiming in for us here right now over, of course, on the social media. We do have John Brazelton talking about the Mission Trail being great for the El Paso yearly marathon, but not much else. Glad to know that you're going down there a good amount. I find it a nice place to go to because, I mean, and I've also met people going on in and around down there. But, yeah, if you don't think that more stuff going down there is important, well, I guess more power to you in that case here. Augustine Pimentel chiming in saying you have problems with supplies, goods, and services, I think going on the point of without taxes there, which is another interesting point to be made. Because I'm not sure I totally believe that as an idea either. Well, in any case here, getting back to our actual interview here for this part of the show here, back with you here. Again, that interview with UTEP professor Todd Curry. Welcome back here to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show. Of course, we got that phone line be open up at the end of this segment as we do. A lot of comments could be coming in over on the social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Feel free to leave those if you see fit. But also joining us right now, continuing our conversation with Todd Curry, UTEP Associate Professor of Political Science. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's good to be back.
Absolutely. Thanks for sticking around for that particularly. So talking a little bit about both your study into, tribal law, interaction with U.S. government, et cetera, issues, and these decisions, particularly the Isleta del Sur Pueblo versus Texas Supreme Court decision coming down this week, 5-4 decision, essentially overall in favor of the local tribe and therefore other tribes in Texas. Of course, the question that has come up both from our audience and more broadly is, what does this mean going forward here? There could be more specific things. Again, the Class 2 and Class 3 gets very technical, but the way it's essentially been explained to me is that Class 2 is you got bingo and pull tabs, which is somewhere in between scratchers and slots is the best way it's been described to me. I've never actually personally used one, but then Class 3 is what you would consider traditional casino things. But there is an aspect of the other federal law that, regulates gaming nationwide when it comes to tribes that Texas now is going to fall under, according to this Supreme Court decision, that is supposed to take place. And what has that looked like in other states that you're familiar with, these good faith negotiations we've been talking about?
Yeah, I am familiar with these good faith negotiations. So taking just a little step back from that, Texas always could have complied with the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act had they choose to allow Class 3. But since they banned it outright, the Restoration Act, which was the act we talked about in the last segment, was still controlling for the Isleta del Sur Pueblo. But what the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act requires is that the tribe and the state, if the tribe wishes to offer Class 3 gaming, they have to enter into a pact with the state government in order to be allowed to do that. What this pact almost always universally across the United States takes the shape of is revenue sharing. Because since the state can't tax the tribes or any business entity of the tribe, they want a cut of it, and they have to enter into an agreement, since the final arbiter of whether the tribes get to open Class 3 gaming is the state. So despite the fact that the tribes are sovereign, the federal law recognizes that these casinos will exist within states and therefore gives the states a role to play in that negotiation process.
So when those negotiations have happened previously, what does that end up looking like? What could it potentially look like here if it gets to that point?
Well, when we go all the way back to the beginning of the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, so really 1989, some of the first tribes to actually engage in Indian gaming, that being the Seminole tribe of Florida, entered into a pact with the state of Florida to do this. And it was a revenue sharing of around 5% of the revenue went to the state. And that was successful, but it was renewed. It was to be renewed after 10 years. And what the state learned in those 10 years is that the state is 100% in the driver's seat and can sort of dictate terms to the tribes. And the tribes have really no chance to, quote unquote, negotiate. They just kind of have to accept terms. And what this has done is that the tribes have consistently argued that, well, these aren't good faith negotiations because negotiations aren't actually going on. We're just being dictated terms to. And the court has been reticent to sort of change that. So when we look here at the state of Texas, if the tribes wish to offer Class 3 gaming first, they would have to enter into a pact with the state government to do so. The state government of Texas have been largely resistant towards that. And so the only outlet that was available to the 3 federally recognized tribes in the state of Texas was Class 2 gaming, which includes bingo, pull tabs, like you said, and also poker, because it's considered a game of skill with no bakeable cards. So all of those 3 things tribes can do without approval of the state. To do anything else, they have to enter into a pact, and one could think of that as like a treaty between the tribe and the state.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Todd Curry, UTEP Associate Professor of Political Science. And something else that you mentioned there that is of interest, of course, is the fact that, well, Texas does not allow Class 3 gaming in any capacity currently in the state. Would that have an impact on any of these even potential opening up of negotiations?
Yeah, see, the tribes, I don't even think are really attempting Class 3 gaming until the state has signaled that they're willing to do that. Now, there is an outside group with no tribal interest that has actually been lobbying the state, not only the governor's office, but also the state legislature, in terms of allowing Class 3 gaming within the state. And that is a pact on the basis of, I think it's Las Vegas Sands, and their pact in the state of Texas is called Texas Sands, and they've been dumping a lot of money towards the state government in the hopes of legalizing Class 3 gambling within the state.
So, I mean, among other things, with the state signals and not largely being in the driving seat, it sounds like if there were to be, as some members of our audience have asked, when can they go and start playing blackjack at, say, any local institution, it would take larger state law changes before that's even really going to be a path available, it kind of sounds like.
Oh, yeah. There's anything that involves bankable cards like blackjack. Class 3 gaming would have to be legal somewhere within the state. Now, it's completely banned. Let's say, for example, the Kickapoo tribe, which is the oldest federally recognized tribe in the state of Texas. Let's say the state entered into a Class 3 gaming pact with them. What it would mean is that the other 2 federally recognized tribes in the state could also enter into pacts. But also, if, let's say, for example, that the Texas Sands organization gets the state of Texas to somehow legalize Class 3 gambling, what that would also mean is that the tribes could urge the state to enter into a pact with them. So if this outside entity wins in terms of legalizing gaming, it would be a windfall for the 3 tribes within the state. They would be able to start opening up Class 3 gaming, which is the type I tend to think of it as Vegas-style casinos, which are completely unallowed in the state right now. I don't see either of those paths being likely, but if the state was to take any shift, it wouldn't be on behalf of the tribes. It would be on behalf of that private equity group that is seeking to change the laws in the state of Texas.
Interesting. So kind of maybe a little closer eyes than anything else, probably on the next legislative session, whenever it may come. Well, really, the regular legislative session outside of any special session that may or may not be called, because be surprised if this would end up on it, but could certainly come up during, well, the early part of 2023 as we're getting closer to it.
Yeah, definitely. The group is committed, and I think they've spent something like $2 to $3 million already. And they're willing to spend more because they know that if Class 3 gaming was legalized in the state of Texas, this is a very ripe population upon which they could profit off of. The tribes don't have nearly the ability to toss around $3 million to lobby the state of Texas to allow Class 3 gaming without a possible payoff. And so they haven't argued that they want Class 3 gaming. They've just been happy to have Class 2. And since the court has made its decision, the Tiguas can legally offer the Class 2 gaming that they had been offering.
One other consideration that comes up out of this, we've been talking a lot about existing forums, well-known and well-participated in other places, forums of gaming. But of course, there has been somewhat of an emergent category. I have even seen it around town here in El Paso lately, this idea of skills-based games, that it looks essentially and functions somewhere between a video game and, well, kind of like a slot machine. Particularly, I've seen the newer style ones where there are these displays that have a lot going on. It's not just the spinning reels, essentially. And the way it works with those, these skill games, is that you're paying per chance to achieve a goal. But again, the claim is that it's based on skill and therefore not chance. Have you seen anything, I mean, again, locally, TBD, but even nationally, about tribes being interested in exploring that?
So no, and here's why. If Class 3 gaming is legal in the state for the tribes, they're not going to worry about these skill-based games. They're going to go for what the real revenue draws are, which is Class 3 gaming. But for tribes in the 4 states that prohibit all Class 3 gaming, they have not delved into this area of skills-based gaming. Largely because, one, the law is not real solidified as to the legality of it within the state, and two, there's too much risk that is opened up by them. Because the way the tribes engage in gaming is they contract with a company that provides the gaming services and has all of the liability shields and everything built into it. But to take on this new area of skills-based gaming, there's too much liability to the tribes and too much uncertainty that they've largely steered away from it.
Makes a little of sense here. So again, guest right now has been Todd Curry, UTEP Associate Professor of Political Science and Studies and writes on these issues in terms of tribal law nationwide. Thank you very much for joining us today to talk a little bit further about these details and what it might mean or look like for the region.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much for doing so. We got to take that next break right now. So coming out of this break, we will get to those phone lines. Go ahead and open them up now. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. More comments, calls, all that stuff with more Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at Schuster Avenue. A vehicle is blocking the left side at the top of the on-ramp as it merges with the I-10s. Slow traffic on the 20 southbound from Desert Boulevard to Piedras with 7-minute delays. Injury accident Dyer Street at Rushing Road. An injury accident Yandell Drive west of Reynolds, and a crash east of Yarborough at Vista del Oro Drive and Lakewood. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples' free PC tune-up event is this Saturday and Sunday. Bring your existing PC to any Staples to improve your startup and operating speeds and junk file removal. Plus, get free tune-up software good for a year. Valid in store on existing Windows devices only. Appointments encouraged by phone or in-store. Staples.
It's a fact that a child's body temperature rises 3 to 5 times faster than an adult's. And leaving a child in a hot vehicle can lead to their death very quickly. Sadly, in 2021, 23 children died in hot cars due to heat stroke. Many of these incidents occurred when parents or caregivers simply forgot the child was in the car. Unintentionally leaving a child in a car is a tragedy that can happen to anyone. Please set yourself reminders on your cell phone or place something you'll need in the back seat to help you remember that your child is still in the car. If your partner or caregiver is taking your child to daycare, check with them or the child care staff to make sure that the child was dropped off. And when you've arrived at your destination, always check to make sure the car is empty. Heat stroke deaths are preventable when adults take proper precautions. Be safe and always look for your baby before you lock. Paid for by NHTSA.
Beautiful, top quality, long-lasting dental implants as low as $19.95 at 1995implants.com. The El Paso Dental Office, where implants are affordable. Other places charge $3, $4, $5, up to $6,000 per tooth. Please do not pay that much. Please do come to 1995implants.com, where our price is much lower, as low as $1,995 per tooth, including the implant, abutment, and crown, which many other places charge extra for. Plus, at 1995implants.com, we also offer a free consultation, free standard x-rays, and very convenient payment options. Now's the time to get rid of your cracked teeth, missing teeth, or loose, old, wobbly dentures and get the beautiful new smile that you want at a very affordable price. 1995implants.com. For more information, see our website, 1995implants.com. That's 1995implants.com. Se habla español.
Illegal fentanyl is up to 100 times more potent than morphine. A tiny amount is all it takes to cause an overdose. It could be in your drugs, and you wouldn't be able to see it, taste it, or smell it. Learn more at cdc.gov/stop-overdose.
Second half of the year looking busier than the first? Hire with Indeed. Their powerful platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates in one place. Sponsor a job and immediately get a short list of quality candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
M1EP.com. Superior multifamily property management services citywide.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to get at the show. We, of course, have opened up that phone line. That number to call there, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Some interesting responses out there to the interview we have. Again, delving just a little bit further into some of the more concrete possibilities coming out of the Supreme Court decision, what it might mean for the local area. Of course, the Estado de Sur Pueblo tribe. So the short answer is maybe, but not yet. We'll see what happens in a lot of ways. Ed Clora saying that Cherokee is the largest tribe in Texas. Not too sure about the actual size of the tribe here, but we'll say it's not a federally recognized tribe within the state of Texas. So that's the distinction we've been making and why there are those specific laws. I mean, it's the background on why this decades-long case has been happening goes back many more decades, or even better part of over centuries. So actually, if I'm thinking about it here, so that's part of why that is there. RJ saying that lived in East Texas, North Texas, and Class 3 is a big no. Yeah, I would be very surprised if it's going to happen soon, but stranger things have happened out of legislative sessions. I doubt it will come up as part of any special sessions ahead of the start of next year, but it's entirely possible. I am going to be fairly certain that there may be some discussions already in the works when it comes to laying the groundwork for that in the next session. And then kind of a random comment talking about $200 trillion in gold found in Uganda, and saying, wondering if that will bring down the price of gold. Claim will be distributed to their people. Don't know much about that. All I'm saying is if you ever get any, still don't pay as much attention to any rich African prince scams is all I'm saying here. Got some more comments coming in, but we'll get to those phone lines here real quick before we hit that break. Again, the number to call there, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line here with us right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Well, I don't know if this has as big an impact on our community as Tigua gambling does. But your fellow talk show host, Sean Hannity's tweet to Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, on January 5th was shown at the hearings today. Sean Hannity texted in that he was very worried about the next 48 hours. So the House January 6th Select Committee has revealed the new text messages written by your Sean Hannity. I call him Inanity, and now demands that he cooperate with the probe. And so they sent him a letter that they released publicly Tuesday, where Chairman Benny Thompson called Hannity a fact witnesses to the investigation. And he noted that Hannity was expressing concern and providing advice to the president and certain White House staff about January 6th. And Hannity also sent Chief of Staff Mark Meadows press coverage of the cabinet's threatening to remove President Donald Trump using the 25th Amendment. That's really interesting from a guy who's constantly questioning the mental capacity of the president. It sounds like Trump was worried about Trump's insiders, worried about Trump acting crazy, talking about rubber room rants from Trump, like calling Vice President Pence the P word for not going along with his legal plot to have Pence overturn the election. And there were also disclosures and videos of the Proud Pendejo boys saying that they were going to take out Speaker Pelosi, Vice President Pence, and AOC, and that they also had plans to gas the congresspersons in the Capitol tunnels. And I also saw and heard conservative Republican retired federal judge Michael Luttig, who advised Pence ahead of the Capitol riot, accused Trump and his allies of waging a war on democracy on January 6th.
I mean, okay, we've been talking a bit about what's going on with these committee proceedings, particularly as they've been coming up, but a little bit out of our wheelhouse for where we are here during the weekend. Yes, we have other hosts that have their own focuses here on this station, but as we've made pretty clear in the past, we do kind of our own thing here. So trying to say that that's why it's totally relevant for today. You're stretching it a little bit thin there, but to put it blankly, this is part of what you're saying there, why I don't like the idea of trying to essentially armchair diagnose anyone's mental health ability if I'm not an actual A, diagnosing authority, or B, involved in any way in their actual personal life here. So I feel staying away from it is, well, my personal standpoint anyway. Y'all can do it on your own, but let's just say I'm going to give you the same kind of raised eyebrow I give to that in general. But also to say that you want to see the outcome of the committee, I mean, that has never been an unclear point on my part that, yeah, want to see an actual full investigation out of this. Just wondering how much is actually going to come out of this actual committee proceedings. And to say that Hannity being concerned about the next 48 hours, I think a lot of us were that day. So I guess that whole point is, well, a little bit maybe lost on me. Anyway, we got to take that next break right now. So I thank you for the point in the call, even if a little bit more in our Friday bounds, which we're on the cusp of, make no mistake, but let's save that for tomorrow here. We got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break and the top of the hour news, we'll get to more of the calls, more of the comments, more of the discussion about what affects us here in El Paso. If you want to call in and add your own 2 cents, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On your El Paso traffic, I-10 westbound at Hawkins, a stalled semi is blocking the right shoulder. You've got slow traffic on Highway 20 Alameda Avenue southbound from Desert Boulevard down to Cotton Street downtown, 5-minute delays. And later tonight at 9 o'clock, Loop 375 westbound is going to close between Paisano and Spur 1966. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Are you looking for a low-rate loan to finance a used car? At Lightstream, you can get a loan to buy a used car from the dealership starting at 3.99% APR with autopay and excellent credit. Lightstream gives you the power to negotiate as an all-cash buyer. Plus, they finance vehicles other lenders won't, like older cars and classic cars.
Financing a car with Lightstream is so easy. They have no restrictions on age, model, or mileage. There are no appraisals, and they don't require collateral. I signed all the paperwork while I was at the dealership.
Get a Lightstream loan to buy a used car from your dealership with rates as low as 3.99% APR with autopay and excellent credit. Apply today at lightstream.com/easy and get an additional interest rate discount. That's lightstream.com/EASY. Lightstream.com/easy.
Subject to credit approval. Rates range from 3.99% APR to 9.49% APR and include a 0.5% autopay discount. Lowest rate requires excellent credit. Terms and conditions apply and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/easy for more information.
If you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my friends.
For my community.
For everyone here.
We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies us. Report suspicious activity to local authorities.
If you see something, say something.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link. News on the hour
KTSMradio.com.
Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Then Vice President Mike Pence's life was in danger on January 6th, 2021. So said California Democrat Pete Aguilar during the third public hearing of the committee investigating last year's attack on the U.S. Capitol. Aguilar described Secret Service efforts to move Pence and said at one point rioters came within 40 feet of a room where he was located.
That a confidential informant from the Proud Boys told the FBI the Proud Boys would have killed Mike Pence if given a chance.
Rioters were angry that Pence had not agreed to take steps to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Wall Street is closing with stocks much lower as fears of a recession grow. This comes a day after the Federal Reserve announced it was raising rates by 0.75% to fight rampant inflation. Washington senators want to know if retailers are taking advantage of the nationwide baby formula shortage. Senators Patty Murray and Maria Cantwell are calling for an investigation into baby formula price gouging. In a letter to the Federal Trade Commission chair, the senators claim a major retailer hiked the price for a specialized formula by 33% between October 2020 and May 2022. Amber Heard had crocodile tears during her defamation trial with ex-husband Johnny Depp. Lisa Taylor explains.
That's according to an anonymous juror who spoke to Good Morning America. The juror said Heard made the jury uncomfortable when she cried, the facial expression she made, and when she would stare at the jury. The juror added Depp's testimony was more believable, and the evidence didn't back up what Heard was saying. Heard was ordered to pay Depp over $10 million in damages related to the 2018 op-ed piece she wrote that alluded to past claims of domestic violence.
Elon Musk wants more than 1 billion users on Twitter. He mentioned that goal while speaking with employees of the social media giant. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. A new task force addressing online harassment and abuse is being established by the Biden administration. A statement from the White House referenced the recent deadly mass shootings in Buffalo and Uvalde, Texas. It said the internet can be a weapon which leads to hate and abuse affecting society at large. 3 New Jersey youngsters now face multiple charges in separate handgun arrests this week. Liz Warner has more.
In Asbury Park on Monday, cops arrested 2 14-year-olds for handgun and ammunition possession, and they then arrested another 14-year-old in Patterson on Tuesday. In addition to his handgun, which cops say was stolen from Virginia, the Patterson boy had 266 glassines of heroin on him and now faces both firearm and drug charges. Identities for the 3 youngsters were not released due to their status as minors.
Parts of South Carolina are issuing more warnings about rip currents with warm weather in full swing. Sarah Bartlett reports.
The National Weather Service says rip currents are the leading cause of weather-related deaths in the coastal Carolinas. 8 people die each year from rip currents, with half of that number coming from people who don't know how to get out of them. Most recently, a Maryland resident drowned in Myrtle Beach this week. NOAA says rip currents are the cause for more than 80% of rescues by surf beach lifeguards. Officials say beachgoers should be on the lookout for signs of rip currents and swim when a lifeguard is present.
Texas and Oklahoma are going to get a preview of life in the Southeastern Conference next January. The conferences released the SEC Big 12 Challenge men's basketball schedule today. OU will face Alabama, with UT visiting Tennessee. Reigning national champs Kansas head to Kentucky with Arkansas at Baylor. Auburn will be at West Virginia. TCU and Mississippi State play each other, as do Kansas State and Florida. All games are set for January 28th. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Make this the year you go to our iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Right now, Capital One cardholders get first dibs on tickets to our 2022 iHeartRadio Music Festival. Only available while supplies last, or until tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. So don't miss it. Plus, add a Capital One Access Pass to your purchase to attend a VIP event with a private performance from Avril Lavigne. Only available during the cardholder presale.
Presale tickets are limited and will go fast at iHeartRadio.com/Capital One.
This report is sponsored by Kelly Blue Book. Kelly Blue Book Instant Cash Offer is an official offer to buy your car. Enter your vehicle ID info, answer some questions, then get a no-obligation offer to sell or trade it. Then choose a dealer to purchase your car, schedule a time, and drive away with confidence. For all of the its, kbb.com it.
COVID-19 has affected millions across the U.S. If you and your family get sick, you may be wondering how you can help. Learn more about Active 6, a research study looking at potential treatment options for COVID-19 that may help people with COVID feel better faster. You may be able to help from the comfort of your own home. We'll mail medications to you and you'll complete surveys online. Learn more at active6study.org/radio. That's ACTIV6study.org/radio.
Tweens have mastered the art of tuning out. Jen, there's a spider in the car. We're turning your room into a home gym. See? Nothing. But some messages need to get through, like making sure they're buckled up the whole ride, every time. Do whatever it takes to make your child listen. Jen, I friended your boyfriend.
Wait, what?
Buckle up, sweetie.
Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Children who grow up in poverty are part of a destructive cycle. At Child Fund International, we find this unacceptable. In 25 countries, we are vigorously fighting poverty and improving the lives of children and their families. Learn more at childfund.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, of course, on all those, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Also, those phone lines open right now. Wanted to chime in on our topics and such of the day, the things affecting us here in the borderland. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. A lot of comments coming on over the social media. Dropping those likes and reacts, we do appreciate. Tim Boynton Sr., Michael Robert Tipping, Calvin Williams, and Flaco Jimenez. Some of the comments coming in here right now, Guthrie Codry saying, I highly doubt Trump took advice from Hannity. And Flaco Jimenez saying, I'm guessing Hannity, if Hannity hadn't been concerned, it would have been a problem too. Yeah. That sounds about right here, but some of the other commentary coming in, of course, about some other topics of the day. Marky Mendingo saying, we got ripped off with the UMC bond. 30% goes to uninsured and Juarez residents. We pay dearly yearly. Again, the bonds, or at least the certificates of obligation, not going through just yet, though you're talking about the bond there. So, yes, not exactly the same thing, but that has now been essentially postponed until the end of this month, in which case there would still be that 45-day waiting period, essentially. Not quite the term in effect here, but it is technically correct, I guess you could say, before there would actually be the issuance of the bonds to allow for public input, comment, again, the final vote that would take, among other things. Some of the other commentary coming in, Kevin Williams on that idea of the committee. Sounds like the left can put anything into evidence with or without any consequences. They're so happy they do not have to follow the rules of a court. I think that is one of the finer points that often gets missed here. This is not a legal proceeding in the judicial sense. This is a legislative proceeding. The entire point of congressional committees, investigations, etc., it may result in prosecution, but in and of themselves do not directly lead to it. They're meant to influence potential action of the legislature, such as, writing of laws, motions, etc. Now, it may be referred to it here, but again, that was one of the key differences between that and, of course, the impeachment proceedings. Not a legal process inherently by definition, and not even as it's all political. Literally, it's a part of politics at this point. So something comes out of it, sure, but, it's just not so much of it here. So some other commentary coming in about that, and some other things about the Cherokee and such. Again, there's a lot of comments over here, but one of the more interesting ones, just putting a pin in that topic here, Marky Mendingo saying that the Texas lottery is a game of chance, so is it illegal? Doesn't even keep the original promise of paying for post-secondary education like promised, but if you're lucky enough, you could work there and make six figures. At least New Mexico keeps their word and pays a portion to college expenses. You could buy more marijuana is what I'm going to say here with those dollars. isn't there a large bingo game across from El Paso BMW Mac Massey? I mean, again, bingo is a weird thing, and you may have again noticed in previous years that there were those sweepstakes lounges, I guess is the best thing I never went into them, but they popped up here and there, even one, if I do remember correctly, some years ago, not too far down the street from us here at our studios on Mesa, and those would pretty commonly pop up for a minute and then either close down voluntarily or get raided because walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, that kind of reasoning when it comes to gambling. And if it is truly that class 3, which does include slot machines, but sweepstakes, again, there's a little bit finagling with the law. The way I have it couched in my mind is similar to the idea of, say, drug analogs, the whole, spice and those things that may not technically be illegal, but are otherwise chemically similar enough to have the same effect on the person ingesting or imbibing them as to create effects of other illegal drugs. And then there's a little bit of the legal whack-a-mole as they add and update the formulas there. So that's the way I've kind of thought about it in other circumstances. Essentially, that when we have these, not in reference to tribal gaming, but these weird sweepstakes operations that they may look exactly like a slot machine, but might technically, in a very, very specific organizational kind of way, not be a slot machine. The whole selection with or without replacement we talked a little bit about, super deep in the weeds, I will fully admit that, but that they would try to do that for a while and then not work out is a little bit how that works there. So there was also some commentary and Marky Mandingo saying Grandma loves the bingo, but cards are only at $1, but hours coffee and 100 cigarettes later she is broke. Smokes are like $8 a box. Yeah, that is I can see that working out badly for you. And Ed Clore on that point saying bingo is peanuts compared to what the Texas Racing Commission has in store for Texas racetracks. Texas Racing Commission has said that pari-mutuel wagering will not be conducted at Texas racetracks on live or simulcast wagering if the Horse Tracking Integrity and Safety Authority asserts control over regulatory supervision on July 1st, 2022 as scheduled. I mean, one of the reasons you might be thinking about, wait, don't we kind of have a casino in this area? And there absolutely is one if you're thinking about the Sunland Park Racetrack and Casino. I mean, it is positioned very specifically in order to be probably as close as is legally possible to the area and the larger population within the Texas side of the borderland. But of course, New Mexico has different laws when it relates to this, and that is of course not a tribal run casino, but it does have that attached to because it is a racetrack. So the racetrack, maybe one of the reasons I've gone there anyway, mostly with friends because I have no idea what I'm doing on horses, but the reason they're even able to have that is because of the racetrack. And RJ also saying it doesn't always pay out to serious Welches. Yeah, I mean, if you can't afford to lose it, don't go and gamble it. It's a bad way to live here. Of course, we do have that phone line open right now, as I've been mentioning. Number to call there, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. I have a call on the line here right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Frankie.
Hey there, Frankie. What's on your mind?
Well, I want to follow on what I said yesterday on the very last portion of your program about the 55-49 percent thing. Do I have to go explain that again all over? Or can you remember what I said?
Don't think I'm quite getting the reference you were making. Go ahead and revisit it for briefly if you can then.
Okay. There was a recent poll out that said, whatever the number, the sample size was, 55% of the Democrats said versus 49% that, including the 49% of the Republicans, that they believe our democracy is endangered and ready to go off the end of the cliff.
Okay.
That's basically what the poll said.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to add an addendum to that, right?
Okay.
Where, and I think everybody else knows, the United States of America, our society is the most non-homogeneous society in the whole world, as far as I'm concerned. Now, if this does happen, 55%, 49%, whatever combination it is, and this democracy goes off the rails, it's going to be totally ugly. With all these guns that are out there in this country, and you're going to have one side that's going to say they want to go anarchy or they want to go this way, the other side wants to go this way and they want to go that way. I don't know, Andrew, or anybody else out there, Who's got a solution to this? Because it is not going to end well.
Yeah, I have found myself very much, I don't even care about the politics of why they're saying it. Anyone advocating for the idea that armed conflict is the only way, that there is no political solution, essentially, I find myself just entirely opposed to that line of thinking. B, if you think it's going to be simple, that, we've got all of the stuff supporting us and we'll just roll over them, they have no idea what's coming. I mean, even before the whole Ukraine war, in which people that were technically of two different countries, Russia invading them, but otherwise very close, socially and culturally, ending up being in this. I mean, it's not been simple. And if anyone thinks it would be like, well, it'll just be like the last civil war in this country, it would not be so very nicely regionally segmented. It's going to be everywhere. You'll be much closer to a Bosnia, Croatia, that kind of a situation where kind of everything is on fire all the time. So anyone who's saying like, no, that's totally the way out of this, oh my goodness, you are probably an idiot in my estimation, because to think that that's going to work out well in any way is, well, you're essentially advocating for everything being ruined forever. That's a simple way to put it. And there are a lot stronger F words I want to use in this case than fire, but I think you take the meaning there.
Well, and you're right on that, as usual. But, I mean, whether it's a small anarchy or a big anarchy, it's still an anarchy. And nothing in anarchy works out well. And I just hope in our country, those that believe in our Constitution and our way of life, get down, look in the mirror, and say, no, this is not the way we want it to go. I mean, I'm talking about ending the whole democracy thing is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, would definitely agree with you there. And, on the whole idea of anarchy and being back in a state of nature, there's a very succinct way to put it here in a phrase I think about more than a little bit. Solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short would be the sum total of the experience of everyone living in that kind of a situation. So, yeah, you're going to find me voting very firmly or taking action very firmly to oppose that in almost any circumstance I can imagine arising out of it.
You're a good man, Andrew. God bless you for being on this planet. I like more people like you versus some other nut jobs out there. Thank you for being who you are.
Sure thing. Thank you very much. Appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
All right. Bye.
All right, that'll take us through the next break of the hour here right now. If you want to get on the line, add your 2 cents. We'll get to some of those recorded calls as well. If you want to do so, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. More comments, more calls, more discussion about all these things, including those poll numbers. I know we had a brief mention of it. We'll get into that after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at Hawkins, a stalled semi is blocking the right shoulder. Dyer at Rushing, an injury accident with police and medical on the scene. You can take McCombs or Sanders Avenue to get around that. An accident downtown North Mesa at Franklin. Take Texas Avenue to get past it. And an injury accident, Paisano Drive eastbound at Washington Avenue. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
Virginia Hall is one of the most famous American spies in history, and during World War II, she was called the most dangerous of all Allied spies by none other than the Butcher of Lyon. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic, but if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer. That's your regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is the leading cancer killer, but can be prevented with regular screenings starting at age 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today and visit cdc.gov/screenforlife for more information.
Hey, it's Mario Courtney Lopez, and we know life is better together.
Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
We are all getting together more, and Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath with just 2 rinses a day keeps us from worrying about bad breath in those up-close moments.
Go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find Smart Mouth at your favorite store to give you confidence as we get get closer to each other.
Remember to make life's moments better together with SmartMouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
Research shows listeners don't like it when ads interrupt their music. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual customizes home insurance, we made this ad optional. If you want to skip this ad, remove your left earphone. Liberty Mutual customizes home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
If you're missing this informative ad, you must love wasting your cash.
It's the easy and smart way to save.
Now it's all been said, so if that your phone was out, put it back in your head.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
When you need your tech working its best, Staples has you covered.
My PC has 3 speeds: slow, slower, and slowest.
Staples has you covered during our free PC tune-up event, Saturday the 18th and Sunday the 19th. Bring your existing PC to any Staples store and we'll remove junk files, improve your startup and operating speeds, and optimize your device's performance with a 1-year subscription for PC tune-up software. A $30 value free. Your tech solution is at Staples. In-store only, Windows devices only. Appointments encouraged by phone or in-store.
Weather and traffic info. You need it? We have it. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed. News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, and of course, a lot of comments coming in over on the social media here. Also, that phone line open, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And, jeez. RJ saying, that's a lot to live up, Andrew. Don't let him down. Could mean increased security and TRO. Listen, if anyone wants to talk with me, hey, you got my phone number right there if you really got a bone to pick with me or other issues. But also, we'll do the best we can every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. as we do here. Marky Bendigo mentioning that he may have gotten his 1 anniversary pin thing. Sticker? I don't know. It's the thing that shows up when you comment over on the Facebook page primarily. If you've been following the page for 1 year, you might get a little extra thing showing up on it. So, yeah, it's a Facebook thing, so we support it, of course, as much as can. So, happy anniversary to you as well, Mark. You do appreciate it. So if you wanted to comment on here, another thing you did mention, a huge land grab outside Austin to build that massive racetrack. Not cool. Wonder when gas is finally banned, what will they do? Of course, saying, yeah, that Formula One track. Man, there's a whole lot of reasons I don't live anywhere near Austin, more or less the fact that I also couldn't afford it. And now would be, geez, in this market, I would be very terrified. Anyway, some more commentary coming in about other commenters on here. I'm going to present, appreciating the presentation style of the previous callers, though, as it was being a follow-up to a, call from yesterday, of course. There actually was a response. Of course, don't forget about the iHeartRadio app and how you can leave your comment through that, in case you at all have been mistaken or forgetting. If you're over on the app listening to us through there, it'll show up like this, and you'll find that little red microphone button on the screen, and we had a call come in that way on, just some concerns about that.
Frankie, it's because the Democrats and the ultra left that have no respect for the Constitution whatsoever is why we are in this situation right now. We need people who are constitutionalists. I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat, but they have to respect the Constitution because they take an oath to.
And so if you want to leave your own message through there, of course, you can do so. Again, the iHeartRadio app, that's the talkback feature. Leave us a 30-second chunk of commentary if you want to over there. And don't forget, we're still doing that giveaway. So if you're leaving your commentary through there, you'll be entered to win into the Father's Day giveaway with Gentleman's Republic Barber Salon and Men's Spa going through. Again, the end of this week, we got another winner that we will be announcing as of right after it. So make sure to go leave your comments over there, download the iHeartRadio app, and get signed up. We're sending out an email for what you got assigned through the app there. But let's, Marky Mendingo also saying, starting to like the style there. So if you're wanting to get at us there, of course, we are taking the phone calls right now. That number to call, 915-544-5876, KTSM. They have a call on the line here right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Hello, this is Tony, East Side.
Hey there, Tony. What's on your mind?
It might be a little off the wall, but hey, the gentleman before said we should have constitutionalist people in office. I'd be glad if they just followed a legal behavior. I'm reflecting on a little news brief that came out on the show last week regarding a little girl was stolen from some immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
She told Border Patrol before you knew it, that little girl was already on a mule on her way to Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
All thanks to the Biden, same thing, administration. So human traffickers have it so liberal that as soon as they steal a kid, that little kid is on a mule already going to either be sold or whatever their purpose is. And my surprise is liberals don't care. I haven't seen any news media bring it up. It happened. They told about it. They moved on. If you ask a liberal that they care about women and children, they say they sure do. But by their actions, they seem to care less. It's really a shame that it just got swept under the rug. It's almost as bad as the Obama-Biden behavior that I brought it up before, but the little Fast and Furious gun trafficking deal that has been the cost for at least 55,000 Mexicans, but then who cares? They're only Mexican, and as a liberal, we could care less. If I'm wrong, please call in, prove me wrong. But otherwise, I believe you're right. Hey, that also proves that there was voter fraud, because nowadays I don't think I can find anybody that'll admit they voted for Biden. And that's my comment, buddy.
Fair enough there. All right. Well, thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. You have a good one.
Thanks. Bye.
I mean, yeah, let's just say that, I would love to see on your first comment there, the first part of it on who we're electing to office. I don't know of any good way to implement it, so don't ask me to actually figure it out. But if there were to be some exam, some like basic competency of skills, not even just to be elected, like that might be a little too thorny, but to get assigned to a committee, there being like a simple, like, okay, you're going to be on the committee that is going to be legislating on these very important issues that will have a lot of impact for the country, maybe even foreign policy, but the citizens certainly there within. And if you can at least get a passing grade, let's just even call it, a 70 or a 69% if you were in one of those schools. I never quite got that wasn't failing, but we're 65 in some places, which is just out of whack. Anyway, you know what? Or even just put it SAT score style, that if you're not going to get something that would at least get you admitted to a college on this exam, you cannot be on that committee. So sorry, because you do not have the basic level of competency with the subject matter that you're going to need to successfully do the position. But again, I have no idea how one would actually implement that. It just might be nice. But to the idea of actual trafficking, I mean, there was, of course, that enforcement effort happening across agencies, including, I do believe, Homeland Security and local police and sheriff's officers going and finding 70 plus in, this whole region of West Texas. So the fact that that is happening is egregious. And I know, there's a lot of commentary under previous administrations, and I don't think you're totally wrong there in calling this or mistaking this the third term of the Obama administration, given the amount of continuing on advisors, policies, etc. But I mean, if they were just going to be warmed over Obama policies, that would almost be one thing. But the fact that there hasn't been anything new to even new situations, that's, I think, where we're falling into the real problem here. So the idea of people like following the Constitution, I don't think any one party owns the Constitution, but if someone's doing a better job of following it than not, that's influential on the way I choose who I end up electing to office, shall we say. Just not being competent on the issues and also not caring about the very important ones. That's one of the things, as we mentioned in the teaser there. We've been having the training going on with El Paso Fire Department, the water rescue team, getting their floaties back out because of, the very dangerous situations that could be existing. It's almost hard to remember this happens sometimes, but water rescues often happen in this area because of not necessarily the Rio Grande itself, but the diverted water into the canals around it. So the fact that they're expecting a high number this year is not exactly surprising? I mean, think about it. El Paso Fire Department on its own having to respond to a whole lot more hot weather calls as of this past week. So that impact of the weather, very obvious. But with the release of water having been going on, of course, from Elephant Butte, less than maybe expected this year. But still, when it's diverted into those canals, it can move very fast, very quickly. And it's not necessarily intuitive how deep it is, leading to some serious issues. Yeah, with anyone attempting to cross those as soon as it's even begins to be diverted with the, say, American Canal up there near the American Dam, right off up. You can see it for yourself there off of, well, not too far from our studios here, actually, Donovan and, Executive Center, really. So that's where it really starts moving fast. We'll be going on through this whole release season. And yeah, already more than a dozen, it does sound like, as of this week already. So I'm sure they'll be getting their workout on it. So as we keep dealing with those, yeah, the border issues, they never totally go away in any real estimation. They may fade into the background occasionally, but there's still plenty going on with it in and around our region as we talk about. That's going to lead us to our next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll talk about those polls because I've been teasing it for a minute here. Not going to keep you all stringing you all along, but also if you want to chime in, if you want to call in, you got comments over on the social media. Marky Mandingo, Kathy Codry, Ion Graham, RJ, Ed Clore, and more tuning in, chiming in over there. Flaco Jimenez and Calvin Williams, some others a little bit earlier, Michael Pettis, but also leaving those reacts, which we do appreciate over on the social media. Tim Boynton Sr., Michael, Robert Tipton, Calvin Williams, and Flaco Jimenez. All that and a lot more coming up after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 news updates. It's a big win for the Tigua tribe following a U.S. Supreme Court ruling in a decades-long legal battle with the state of Texas. The High Court announced the tribe is allowed to offer bingo-style gambling at its Speaking Rock Entertainment Center in the Lower Valley. The fight against the state of Texas started back in the late 80s. That's when the Tiguas were officially recognized as a tribe in the state thanks to the Restoration Act. But that law also banned the tribe from offering gambling outlawed in the state. CBS 4 reached out to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and Governor Greg Abbott about the court's decision, but have not heard back. And FDA advisors have signed off on COVID-19 shots for children younger than 5. The FDA panel voted unanimously that the benefits of both the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines outweigh any risks for young children. The shots could be available as soon as early next week. I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Heads up for an injury accident, Diana Drive eastbound at Gateway South. Medical crew on the scene as well as police there. There's a stalled vehicle blocking the intersection on Horizon Boulevard in the Low Valley at the 10 Gateway. A pretty serious accident. Dyer at Russian Road is slowing traffic. Take Sanders or McCombs instead. And Mesa Street downtown at Franklin. An accident. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
After a stretch of unseasonably hot and dry weather, temperatures will start to cool and rain prospects will increase. Expect partly cloudy skies tonight with a 30% chance for isolated to widely scattered showers and storms. Overnight lows will also settle into the middle 70s. Coming up tonight, we'll talk about more seasonal daytime highs headed our way, plus a look at your weekend forecast. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Wondering how our country can get out of this mess? Then you should be listening to Red Pilled America, the best storytelling show in the country. This week we tell the story of how our culture has shifted so far to the left. Listen to Red Pilled America every week on the free iHeartRadio app. That's Red Pilled America.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. We make car buying fast, fun, and easy. And due to high demand, we need trades. So we'll do whatever it takes to get you out of your old vehicle into a new car, truck, or SUV today.
Even if you owe thousands more than your trade is worth, we want it, so you can get huge savings on every new and certified pre-owned vehicle in our huge inventory. For a limited time, get $4,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 full-size Wagoneer SUV with third-row seating and up to $7,000 off select new Ram trucks. Super low 2.9% APR for 72 months on the all-new 2022 Dodge Charger. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Trade and upgrade for less during the Make the Switch event at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand finance. On select vehicles. 0 down with approved credit. Offers not combined.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso. Weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you. Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. And let's talk El Paso.
This Father's Day, find the sweetest products and prices at Lowe's. Like $50 savings on a Craftsman 20-volt 2-tool combo kit was $149, now $99. Lowe's, home to any budget, home to any possibility. While supplies last. Valid 6/16 to 6/19. This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
Traffic's bad enough without Mother Nature adding to your headache. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show. Do have that phone line open right now through the end of the hour, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. The number to call there. A lot of comments coming in as well over on the social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk if you really want to find us. And one of the things I wanted to mention here as well today, you may have been, well, you wouldn't be blamed for being slightly confused of what you might think the latest poll numbers are coming out for, well, the gubernatorial race that we are facing down here in Texas. Of course, coming out of the primaries, pretty clearly settled by the first one, but now that we're fully clear of the primaries and even the runoff, we definitely know that the races that are going to be shaping up between, of course, Republican incumbent Texas Governor Greg Abbott and Democrat challenger, former El Paso Congressman Robert Francis Beto O'Rourke, have been changing a bit lately, or at very least some interesting different ones coming out. There was the one that came out earlier this week, the poll showing that, Governor Greg Abbott had about a 19-point lead over O'Rourke. Blueprint polling said that about 49% of the 600-plus likely voters definitively picked Republican Abbott, while O'Rourke had about 33% support, and then a split leading to that combined number, again, that 19-point spread with the likely voters. But a newer poll that has come out of this week with Quinnipiac finding that 48% of registered voters in Texas support Republican Abbott, and Democrat O'Rourke got 43%, so showing a 5-point lead in this latest one. Now, it doesn't sound like the exactly same polling methods here, among other things, but it is an interesting comparison as we are getting closer to this. One of the more notable things, according to the release from Quinnipiac University polling analyst Tim Malloy that came along with this polling information, is that the race tightens. Abbott considered strong on leadership slips. O'Rourke considered long on empathy rides the momentum of support from women and young Texans in the horse race to Austin. So, among other things, there's been a lot of commentary, of course, about the positions on guns, gun control, gun laws, etc., as potentially having impacts on this. And again, what Quinnipiac pointing towards is that previously it was thought that there would be a better handling of gun laws by, well, Governor Greg Abbott, but that now has slipped. Specifically, they note that in December, 60% of voters polled said Abbott would do a better job of managing gun laws and gun policy issues, and 33% said O'Rourke would do a better job in the issue, noting from the reporting from Texas Tribune here, but that had seriously tightened. Again, 47% preferring Abbott on gun control or gun issues, I should say, more accurately, versus 43% for O'Rourke. So that's at least a part of the considerations going again into this election season. Now, we do have November on the mind here. And yeah, I mean, there's still, Abbott's not exactly totally underwater on this, but found that, again, to this latest poll, 38% approved of Abbott's handling of gun violence. Now, this is something that I've been mildly expecting here, that if there weren't results or at least substantive action going to be found out from the governor's mansion, that could possibly impact his polling chances as we get closer to November, and why I would continue to not be surprised if, even ahead of the ever closer and soon impending legislative session at the beginning of next year, that if the heat keeps getting ramped up either in polls like this or other ways, I mean, one poll does not necessarily a trend make, particularly since it comes on the heels of another poll showing an almost, I guess not exactly opposite, but very different result in terms of favorability for the current gubernatorial administration. But if that were to continue, if it were to become a trend across more polls or even just pressure coming from, well, otherwise Texas allies and parts of the base for Governor Greg Abbott, that would lead him to, I think, probably more strongly consider an actual special session. There's nothing quite like putting a focus on an issue that you are making a mainstay or is becoming a serious issue for your campaign and continued political life, like holding a special session on that. And there is literally no one else that holds that power in the state of Texas than the governor. So if he was truly wanting to make a exclamation point on this issue, he could certainly bring that up and saying, look, this is as serious to me as anything, and I am therefore putting it on a very limited scope, because he also is in the driver's seat on setting the agenda for any potential legislative sessions. Now, the way that he might not want to do that until it's essentially fully necessary is because, sure, he sets the agenda, but then doesn't exactly, well, not literally anyway, have any control over its outcome. He can only say, listen, I set them up, I set these priorities, and this is what I expected them to do. And if they didn't, well, again, may not totally reflect on the governor, but if, like, say, it was not what he wanted to happen, or say, I mean, could you imagine in this circumstance, the governor sets a legislative session saying that we are going to deal with this with some very limited proposals that I think make sense for Texas, and by some fluke, again, not saying it's likely, but just imagine, bear with me for a second, the idea that we then end up with some kind of, say, more national style assault weapon ban for the governor's base, that would be mildly disastrous from him, which is why I don't think it'll happen until push comes to shove. And even then, Abbott's going to be watching those results very, very carefully. Not that he doesn't have a lot of allies, of course, within the legislative branch, some notable less distractions and quibbles than with previous speakers of the House. Dade Phelan seems pretty well on board with him now. And of course, the governor, Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick. I mean, the governor has plenty of allies that I think he could manage it, but that's why I still don't think, given that there is that level of uncertainty about what outcome could actually come out of such a legislative session, I think that really made some of the major, probably pros and cons being weighed about even some of the suggested possibilities. I mean, I know it has come up, and the governor has previously stated that he's not exactly in favor of things such as changing purchase ages, but mostly along the lines of saying, like, well, I don't see a need for it right now, not exactly ruling it out. So anything actually coming out of it, I mean, it would have to be substantive, because you can only get away with so long of being like, well, we tried and it didn't work out, so you better keep voting with us. I think people are starting to get tired of that. I know I've been tired about it for a long time, but I also know I'm weird in the way I pay attention to politics. So if other people are saying, okay, you got to actually do something when you talk the talk, and as opposed to, not walking the walk, but we'll see. Let's get to another call on the line here. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Got a call on the line here right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Hi, this is Yoli on the west side.
Hey there, Yoli. What's on your mind?
Funny, you should start last conversation. You mean things you're tired of?
Mm-hmm.
Congressman Escobar. You had a press conference, you said, at the beginning of your show?
Yes. Some of the major points coming out of there, focusing on some of the things going on in Congress. Got some of my notes right here. They're wanting to double down on addressing price gouging in the pump and other ways, lowering further costs here, among other things.
But nothing about her vote against protecting the Supreme Court justices.
They're not coming up in the major part of her speech there. Again, we had the recording here. The clips were not working out for us to play them back for you here right now in short order before our show here, but don't think that came up at least in the major part of her presentation ahead of any questions coming out.
Be great if she'd come on and defend that on your show.
Yeah, I know that. A lot of other callers and commentators have pointed that as a dislike of recent action. Her being notable of being one of the a couple dozen, I think, roughly, House Democrats voting against that bill that did end up making it to the president's desk here after further passage by the other house. You're referring to the one that allows for more protection for Supreme Court justices and specifically their families, as have there been that wave of protests coming out of that leaked draft decision.
definitely. Well, thank you, Andrew.
Oh, sure thing. Thank you very much. I appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one.
You too.
I mean, maybe I missed something there. It's entirely possible, but I'll have to go back and make sure if anything was said and bring you the specifics on that. So thank you for the question there. And RJ liking the question there as well. Appreciate that and the focus on that there. And yeah, I think that people holding their elected officials accountable, I almost don't care about which side of the aisle is, because it should apply to both. Of, okay, what have you said you are going to do? What have you actually accomplished? And I mean, sure, there are efforts, and I don't expect, frankly, if anyone says I have accomplished 100% of what I set out to do within my elected office, I'd be wondering, A, how exactly did you accomplish that? Or is there a little bit of smoke being blown onto a specific posterior there? Or is it that you set your sights just like way too low? Like, were your goals in Congress that I will be elected to Congress and will be sworn into office? Were those your goals, being elected into this office here? Because if that was it, I'm going to need you to aim just a little bit higher with your aspirations here, because there should be a lot focused on. So I never expect any elected official, particularly congressional representation, to accomplish 100% of what they set out to do. I seriously would have follow-up questions if anyone can clearly claim that. Either you are the luckiest person I've ever heard of, or you might be fudging the record ever so slightly. That would be my further expectation and estimation out of this. So, yeah, knowing exactly what they're doing, how they're doing it is important. And that's what I would hope, sincerely, fervently, and so far, unfortunately, not completely successfully, hope that every voter would consider when they go to the ballot box to select the representation that we're going to have for the next term of office. 2 years, of course, in the part of representatives, 6 years in terms of senators, 4 years in terms of the White House. Because I think there's a lot of like, well, I like this person better than the other, and I'll vote for that. And particularly in, bifurcated races as we have, in terms of there being the two parties that we only usually get, that's usually what you come down to. And being in the democratic republic system that we have for the most part, yeah, you're stuck with a person unless you manage to get a recall effort through, which I'm going to be honest, outside of California, doesn't seem to be quite a lot of appetite for that in a lot of places. Because unfortunately, particularly with congressional elected officials, everyone hates Congress. Everyone loves, in general, their congressperson, or at the very least, the majority of the population where that congressperson comes from. They seem willing to stick around with them, though we've seen our own flukes here in El Paso. Specifically, want to say that it was an update to, wasn't in my time back in college, this was after, but the whole replacement of otherwise sitting Congressman Sylvester Reyes, replaced in the primary by, of course, O'Rourke, was more than a little bit of a fluke. Just going back a few years here, because usually for a sitting and long-term and even, so to speak, tenured, not exactly the right term, but seasoned and getting decent committee assignments, some leadership positions, for a position like that, an elected official like that, to have that happen with no particular scandal, no particular like, oh, you did this bad, or real fervor, and just ticked offness within the community, particularly within that congressperson's base, doesn't usually happen. So El Paso's weird in politics in a lot of ways, and that's one that kind of sticks with me here. And Michael Patter is also chiming in. Democrats talking about price gouging just shows their complete ignorance of how the economy works. There again, we're focused primarily, as noted, on what was going on with price gouging at the pump, but also saying that they want to make sure that they continue on to work on also looking at the lowering the cost of food, fuel, and shipping. But the Congresswoman did note that the efforts were feeling stymied, again, from her perspective, based on the fact that there was no support for the efforts they were voting on from Republicans here. So just telling you what they were saying during that. Hopefully we'll get some cleaned up clips for you in tomorrow's show, can play back and have some further discussion on that. So we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll tell you what we got coming up for the, of course, next bits of the show here. We're on the cusp of Friday, tell you what that means, as well as getting into more on, well, some of those pre-recorded calls have some further coming in, so stay tuned for more Talk El Paso, airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. If you want to make sure you get those comments in for Friday, just preview it now. Either go through #250, where you say the keyword Talk El Paso to leave the message, or to the Talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. More on that after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A big crash on Diana Drive eastbound at Gateway South is closed all 3 lanes, Diana Drive eastbound. Take Cohen Avenue or Dyer to avoid that whole situation. Got an accident that's blocking the intersection and also blocking the right turn lane in the Low Valley Horizon Boulevard at the 10 Gateway. Dyer southbound at Rushing, an injury accident with police on the scene. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Discover. If you're a valued customer, you deserve a simple gesture of appreciation from your credit card company. And that's why Discover matches all of the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year. Discover. Exceptionally common sense. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations apply.
New on Curiosity Stream, he allows them their riches
Putin has to be the richest of the rich.
in exchange for their loyalty.
The oligarchs have supported someone for president that they underestimate.
The illicit affair between Russia's elite and the man who rules them on Putin and the oligarchs. And World War II Normandy, an obscure battle training session takes a tragic turn. Uncover the one secret military catastrophe on the secret D-Day disaster. Watch now on Curiosity Stream. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit curiositystream.com.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is the leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screenforlife for more information.
Research shows listeners don't like it when ads interrupt their music. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual customizes home insurance, we made this ad optional. If you want to skip this ad, remove your left earphone. Liberty Mutual customizes home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
If you're missing this informative ad, you must love wasting your cash.
It's the easy and smart way to save.
Now it's all been said, so if that your phone was out, put it back in your head.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
You know when you see a great deal on a phone and then you find out it's not for you? Not at Verizon.
They just gave us all a new iPhone 13.
So we both got the same great deal.
Yep.
Get iPhone 13 on us with select trade-in and 5G unlimited plans for every customer, current, new, everyone, to show the love. Only from Verizon. $799.99, 128 gigabytes only, device payment purchase with new or upgrade smartphone line required. Less up to $800 trade-in/promo credit applied over 36 months. 0% APR. Trade-in conditions apply.
Heads up, Texas.
So you don't rear end me when I'm at a stoplight.
So I can ride my bike safely.
So I don't have to write you a ticket. Heads up, Texas, because driving and using your phone is a bad combination. Talk, text, crash. Brought to you by TxDOT.
M1EP.com. Superior multifamily property management services citywide.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk, and a little bit what we got coming up for you on the show here. Of course, I think we're working on next week, being joined back by Stephanie here in studio. But also, we got some more topics going on for you to be developed. I mean, the Tigua thing, I know we're doing a bit of an investigation into it. Anything new comes up, but to some of the other ones that are, of course, going to be coming on. We're going to be on the cusp of coming up for July 4th here. So if anyone particularly want to put the call out now is having any events, parades, those kind of things, be sure to drop us a line, let us know. Best way to get at me would be email after the show. Anyway, that being Andrew Polk at iHeartMedia.com. Happy to talk about it, have you all on. So I know that there should be more happening this year than in previous years, but that's just a sneak peek of what we want to be working on for y'all. Not even talking about the big ones. If you got regional stuff, small stuff, let me know. We'll at least put it on a list here. To that point here, did want to mention at least one thing going on, not exactly in the wheelhouse here, but towards community engagement and resiliency, shall we say. The actual Sun City Ham Radio Club, Amateur Radio Club, rather, is going to be having its field day coming up here, well, at the end of next week. Rather, so that if you want to go out and chance to see how amateur radio in the area works and how it works to help us, among other things, spotting weather and those kind of things, be sure to give them a look at and what they got going on. Again, the Sun City Amateur Radio Club, you can find them online at k5wph.org. It's a ham radio thing. I'm not a member or have a license here, though I've thought about it. So if you want to see them field day, see how it works, their clubhouse, 3709 Wickham Avenue. They'll be out there again next, not this coming, but the Saturday after there, starting at about 8 a.m. and going through then Sunday. So check them out there. Got a couple more things we're going to get to on the line here. Of course, if you want to leave us a message in between shows, you can do so by leaving your commentary again through going to pretty much post the talkback feature from here on out, since apparently the pound 250 feature is having some issues. But if you still want to try it, either way, you can do so. Had a comment that, of course, came in a little bit longer than we usually do, but within bounds here.
Good afternoon, Andrew. It's Barbara from the West Side. I was listening to last Friday's broadcast, and I listened to Raul's comments, and he used the word great in conjunction with President Biden, which is, I don't know that too many people agree with him. But coincidentally, I've been working on the alphabet. That sounds silly, but I was going through each letter of the alphabet and writing down exactly how Biden's policies have affected the globe and domestically. I started with Afghanistan. He's empowered China, Russia, Norway, and Iran. China and Russia now have a working relationship. Domestically, he created 13 new Gold Star families, unfortunately, sadly for those families. So that's a global and domestic effect. And then let's go to the border. That's increased 370% in captures at the border since Biden took office. That's a global and domestic effect. We heard about the assassination attempt on President Bush by an Iraqi, and he was going to bring in several ISIS members through the porous border. So that's horrifying in itself. The humane treatment of illegals, which is what they're aiming for, we are light years away under the Biden administration if they continue to follow this policy. Then you go on to see, and we have COVID. We know that we had more deaths under Biden than we did under Trump. We know that generations of children have been affected by the policies, keeping our children out of school. That is also a domestic effect, negative effect on us. Then under C, you can also go to consumer sentiment, which 64% say the economy is in bad shape. 65% say that they disapprove of the Biden handling of our economy. Then you go on to D for the DOJ. It's been politicized. They considered parents who disagree with their school boards as terrorists. And since parents in schools have found out that the National State Board Association has colluded with the DOJ, 24 schools have backed away from the National School Board Association. So that's a big domestic change.
So again, if you want to leave a message with us, either pound 250, but we're going to fully recommend that y'all look at the iHeartRadio app, the talkback feature on there, the little red microphone to leave us a message. And if you're going, we try to keep it pretty pithy with the recorded messages. Otherwise, of course, if you're in the area or even out of the area, as long as you got a phone signal and can hear us, you can call in during the show. To that point, we got one more call on the line here. We do have Jerry in the Northwest with us. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for letting me speak my mind here, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
It was brought up about the gas prices and price gouging.
Yep.
Well, it's not price gouging because whenever they did the embargo, or I call it embargo, on Russia, when Russia was producing their oil, Russia was a major supplier to the United States with oil. We did the refining, but they supplied us with oil. So that affects everything. So now when they have to change that and they take that oil from Russia to, let's say, India, then India ships it over to the United States. Now India wants their cut. So all that stuff adds up. It's not the oil companies that are doing the price gouging. In 2008, CNN Money Show did a breakdown of how everything breaks down per gallon of gas. You know, the gas station only gets about 7 cents per gallon.
Yeah, which is why there was that story recently about one place that accidentally said it, even in this current situation, at 69 cents a gallon, and that person got fired.
Yeah. So it's not price gouging because of the oil refining companies. The people that do make the most money are the ones that deal in trading of oil. So if anybody's going to have to be gone after, it's going to be those people and Joe Biden for his policies.
Again, I've been saying for a minute now that unless there is a significant change of course and sentiment, I think there's going to be quite the bill, the piper's going to come due towards this election season here. So we'll have to leave it there for today. I thank you for the point in the call. We're out of time here for this program. So again, I want to thank everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Free for All Friday is what we'll be doing tomorrow. So we'll get into this and a whole lot more. So stay tuned and stay safe out there. Back with you tomorrow. So look twice for motorcycles when out there on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Gateway South at Diana Drive, a multiple vehicle crash over in the right lane. Got multiple lanes blocked right now. Use Cohen Avenue or Dyer as your alternates. Horizon in the Low Valley at the 10 Gateway in the intersection there, partially blocked. The right turn lane is blocked. Dyer at Rushing. Injury accident there. Medical and police still on the scene. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
There's only one dental office in El Paso where beautiful, top-quality, long-lasting dental implants are very affordable. 1995implants.com. Other places charge $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, up to $6,000 per tooth. Please don't ever pay that much for dental implants. Instead, come to 1995implants.com. Our price includes the implant, abutment, and crown. Plus,
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The January 6th House Committee is releasing video clips of witnesses to a phone call between then President Trump and Vice President Pence on the morning of January 6th, 2021. Trump was pressuring Pence to take steps to overturn the results of the presidential election. Former first daughter Ivanka Trump described the call as pretty heated. The 2026 World Cup host cities for the U.S. are finalized. The East region includes Boston, Philadelphia, Miami, New York, and New Jersey, where Governor Phil Murphy says they're ready to go.
How could you not play the finals here? Look at New York City, the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island. It screams our immigrant roots, and it screams soccer.
Taking place across North America, the U.S. Western region will be made up of Seattle, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. The Central region consists of Kansas City, Dallas, Atlanta, and Houston. Hawaii is first in a new national ranking for COVID-19 response efforts. The Commonwealth Fund ranks states based on factors like pandemic-related deaths, vaccination rates, and strains on hospital resources. The report credits Hawaii for already having a strong healthcare system in place before the pandemic. A Texas Parks and Wildlife officer is lucky to be alive after he crashed his small plane into a lake